Right. So this video is to bring some ease and comfort to the minds of those, right, who, for example, may have lost their babies or children and so on, right, at a young age, right, and is still grieving or trying to get over that process because it's not easy to lose a child or a baby, right, especially after you're going through a 9 month long pregnancy process, right, and then some people end up blaming other people. I've been blamed for a lot of things in life, right, including people's lives and death. I'm not responsible for you or your child's or your parents' life or death, right? So, let's just say this, right? I, Vijay Ramkisoon, I'm not responsible for anybody's life or death because I don't cause physical violence. I don't do anything towards anybody, right? So, I don't support abortions, anything like that, right? But we're talking about natural deaths through stillborn babies. Sometimes a baby born, right? And as the baby is born, the baby dies, or sometimes the baby might die within the womb, right? By natural means, right? This is by natural means I'm speaking about. I just to bring some comfort to people who have gone through these things, right? And let them know the reason why these things would have taken place, right? From a spiritual perspective, right? These things has to do with karmic resolution, right? Now, I'm not telling people this to calm them or to make them feel good or anything. Telling you this because it's the truth of the matter, right? From a spiritual perspective, once a baby die naturally within your womb, or a baby die young after it's born, right? Or a baby or a child dies, right? It means that that child, right, has that person, that soul, has already completed its journey, right? So you find that the child would have already lived a life, right? Lived previous lives before. So from its past life, it would have been the soul would have incarnated into the body, right? Into your body, into a body in your body, right? Carrying the remainders, right? The records, the remainders of the deeds that need to be resolved, right? The remainders of the deeds that need to be resolved, right? So, for example, let me take an example of a person, right, who incarnated in the last life, previous life, right? Person lived as had a fairly normal human life. Then they changed, right? Become closer to God in terms of deeds. And then coming down to the latter part of the life, they revert and do something or do a few things or do something, right? That is characteristic of the past, meaning wrong deeds, right? So we take an example of a person, right? The person live a regularly fairly human life, then change their life to suit God or God's calling. And then coming down to the latter parts of their life, just before they die, they revert back and do some deeds, right, that is anti-God or anti-good, right? So in a case like this person might be reborn into a body, and they wouldn't last long in terms of the future human body because they already have, for the most part, completed their life's journey, their soul's journey, right? For the most part, in the previous life, they would have lived a life that their good deeds would have superseded their bad deeds because they changed, right? So once you change, you live in a life and you change, right? And you do deeds, right, to amount or to surpass those deeds that you did in the past, right? It means that you're on a journey towards salvation, liberation, whatever they may want to call it, moksha, whatnot, jhana, whatever, right? So if in this instance that person, that soul, come down to the end of a journey and revert back and do some kind of crap, it means that you just have a few deeds left unaccounted for, right? You have a few deeds, so they pass away, right? You have a few deeds because you went back to doing some crap just before you die, right? So you have one or two deeds left to account for, right? So it is in these instances the soul might take another body, right? And it wouldn't last, right? That it would disintegrate, right? So you might enter into a womb, the womb of a mother who has some kind of pain, karma to undergo, right? Because of karma on her end, right? So in that case, you enter that soul, right, would match the karma, right, or the resolution of deeds to a mother, right, who has some kind of karmic resolution in equivalence, right, to the person who has that deed to, in the amount of that deed to resolve as well, right? So for example, if I that's why I tell you all, right? You can't change certain things about people, because if through human intervention, right? If I'm on a spiritual journey, right? And I say, hey, well, I'm on my pathway, right? And I'm vegetarian or whatnot, right? You can't come and force me to do something like eat meat after 25 years or so. I wouldn't do it, right? Because I know my path. But suppose I come and do it, right? If I come today now and I eat a box of KFC, right? After 25, 26 years I'm not eating meat, and I eat a box of KFC, right? Then I might, right? I might die today, tomorrow, right? But it mean that, hey, that one thing that I do, because it is a value that's close to truth or truth itself, right? And it is helping me on my journey to salvation or liberation, right? And I come and mess up and do that deed now, right? Because of my pleasure seeking, or temptation, influence, right? It might cause me or my soul, right, to enter into another body, right, and cause me to have some kind of karmic resolution to resolve in a next life, right, to a very small extent, right. So it means that, hey, well, if I do that now, I might be reborn into a mother, right. And this is not just that. That's just an example I using, right. Now that could happen to me as well, right, with regard to some deeds like in the past, or if I go back to doing some deeds in the future, do some things that I say, hey, I make a resolution with God and I oath with God, Allah, whatever, right? I make a resolution with God, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore, right? Because of your instruction, right? And still, if I go back and do it now, at this point, after this day, right? At this point, right? It would betray that oath with God, right? And then I will have to probably take a next life form, right, to resolve that misdeed, right? So I would have to go through some measure of pain after taking that oath, right? I would have to go through some measure of pain because I betrayed that oath that I say I'm not going to, that I said I'm not going to betray, right? So that's how that would work, right? That's how the karmic resolution takes place, right? So I make a promise to you and I make a promise to God, right? That I'm not going to betray this oath, right? But I come and betray the oath, right? So it means that I have to bear some consequences for that betrayal of the oath. That's what karmic resolution is, right? It's simply action and consequence. Now, to put an end to this is what we are saying, right? To put an end to this, right? You stop doing wrong, right? To the extent that is humanly possible, right? So it's not about becoming a saint, right? It's not about that, right? It's not about becoming a saint or anything, or a sage or a rishi, right? Or a maharishi or anything like that, right? Or a prophet. It's not about that, right? It's about attaining salvation in this lifetime for yourself, right? So you don't have to, as a human being, right? So you don't have to go through the pain, right, of taking another birth, right? Because I don't think anybody wants to go through the pain, right? Or put anybody through the pain, right? Because remember, as a soul, right? People are saying, we say we like to blame our parents. There are a lot of people out there, right? Say, hey, I asked to be born. I asked to be, but you did though. We did, right? People say that you didn't ask to be born and they want to blame your parents for putting you through pain, right? And putting your pain and through pain in the womb and pain for life. But this is a result actually of a record of your misdeeds, right? So when you take birth, it is not to say, oh, I never asked to be born, I never asked to be born, right? That's putting blame on somebody else for your actions, and this life is about acknowledging your responsibility, right? So when you come into a life, right? You come into a life with that memory, right? But you don't remember it. But it is recorded upon your body. It, in fact, is recorded on your hands, right? It's recorded on your body, right? That memory, right? That memory of your past, all your past is recorded upon the body in which you inhabit. No, right? So this is what some of us are trying very hard to do, right? In this lifetime, to teach people, hey, right? You want to stop the cycle of birth and rebirth, causing pain onto self and others, right? You have to look at your own deeds, right? It a matter your color, right? It a matter your caste, it a matter your color, it a matter your creed, right? It a matter your gender, right? It don't matter nothing like that. Your nationality, nothing, right? So it is about accounting for your deeds, nothing more, nothing less, right? Accounting for your deeds, nothing more, nothing less, right? So watching your individual action, right? So we are talking about leaving the conversation of slavery, indentureship, all these things, right? Leaving that conversation and and transferring that conversation into looking at your individual deeds, right? And accounting for your individual deeds, right? Because you find if you look to keep talking about your collective, this collective did me wrong, this collective did me wrong, right? You always remain in a victim mentality, right? And that is what some of us are here to help people to grow out of a victim mentality. This group do me this group do me that, this group did this group did that, because every group went through, at least every single group in the course of history went through some kind of collective horror. And I think we could all agree to that, right? Every single group, right, in all of history went through some collective horror, right? So this is what we're trying to help people to move out of that conversation on the victim mentality and grow, right? Grow mentally, grow spiritually, right? So XYZ happened to me, right? I'm not going to spend the next 500 years blaming our group, right? Through my mental will, right? I can help myself to come out of this and help others to come out of this. This is where we need our mindset needs to be, right? Through our mental will, right? We can help ourselves, and through remembering our ancient past and using our ancient past, right, to help our will develop, the capacity, human intelligence develop, right? Help my remember, right? Remember that you are not inferior in intellect and capacity, and remember your ancient past, right? To come out of that mentality of victimhood, right? So this is just remembering truth, remembering the truth, right? Remembering your truth and the truth, right? So coming back to the topic now, right, of helping people to come out of that pain or residue of pain, right, because of your child leaving you before you get a chance to experience a child, right, or your child to experience you or life, right? So people who have gone through that kind of pain, sometimes you're going through. I recently heard about my grandmother, right, having stillborns all in between, right, and all these things. So all these things, right, and other people who have been through all these things. You have your child supposed to come on earth, right, and it didn't get to experience. There's nothing to be sad about, but to say, hey, right, view it in the light of truth, and that, hey, my child had the opportunity to gain liberation through me, right? That's where your mindset needs to be, right? After you go through the pain and the grieving process and all that. Hey, I had the opportunity, or God granted me the opportunity as a mother, right? Even though I didn't get to experience that child didn't get to experience me and life, right? I get that experience as a mother, right? You to liberate or to salvate or liberate, right? Save, right? A child, or grant a soul liberation, right? Through your vessel, through your human vessel, right? So that's how you need to really look at this experience, really, right? So you don't go around thinking, oh well, you feel sad about it or anything of the is that God used your body as a vessel of liberation, right? To liberate a soul that had some kind of little karma to resolve. And God matched that soul with the equivalence of your karma to resolve with that soul in a soul contract, right? So that's how that those situations happen, right? That's how those situations happen, right? So have a blessed day, everybody.